GTA Online has been out for over a decade now, and there still is new people playing this game every single day. So I wanted to make a full guide on how to get started with this game, a full beginner's walkthrough on how to, make the most amount of money, as well as the best businesses to get into, level up quickly, and a whole bunch more. So let's get into it. The first thing, of course, is going to be creating a character. So obviously this is up to you on how you want your character to be, as well as what gender, and also the features that you want in your character. Now you can change this eventually in the future. It does cost $100,000. I think the first one is free though if you want to, but I just recommend getting it right the first time around. So once you're done with that, you obviously have the choice if you want to complete the GTA Online tutorial or just get into free mode. Completing this tutorial honestly does help out a little bit because you do level up to about like 5 levels, because you end up doing a race as well as a few other little things. But regardless though, I think that at this point in GTA Online, there's so many things in free mode that you can get straight into. So I recommend probably just skipping the tutorial. It's up to you though. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. People know how to do it. It's been out for, a long time now. But for this guide, I recommend just skipping over it and just getting into the free mode stuff. So once you're in GTA Online, you will start off, as a brand new level. Obviously, there's going to be a bunch of phone calls and messages and all that coming up. Obviously, I would just recommend ignoring that. Now, something, of course, I have to mention is the fact that if you do play on the next-gen consoles, PS5, as well as Xbox Series X and S, you do get a free $4 million to get started with. So that actually helps out a lot. Now, on the screen is the best setup I would recommend going with and what to choose when it comes to the career paths, which one to go for and which one's going to help you the most. So obviously you just follow this, you'll have like about $1 million left over to invest into other things, which gives you kind of a head start. Of course, though, if you're on PS4, Xbox One, or PC, then you kind of start off with basically not that much. Something I do recommend putting on though, if you want to get free money or easy money, is two-factor authentication. That gives you an easy $500,000. It takes about like 24 to 48 hours to get into your account, but regardless though, it's something that's there and it's something that's actually pretty easy to do. Now, the first thing I'd probably recommend getting into would be the collectibles. This isn't really going to pay you that much. I mean, in total, you'll probably get maybe like around $500,000, maybe a little bit more after collecting all of this. But regardless though, I think the main thing for sure is going to be leveling up, which is actually really important when it comes to unlocking a lot of things. You could own all these businesses, but if you're not at a certain level, there's certain things that you may be restricted to and things that you can buy or upgrade. The max and important level in this game for sure is 120. So just try to get there as fast as you can. Once you get there, you pretty much unlock everything in the game. And regardless, I feel like if you never played GTA Online, I feel like it's just actually something that's going to be really useful to just get into. It's simple. You just go around collecting stuff. I recommend using the GTAweb.eu map. I will leave a link in the description, of course. And it is something that's going to be a little bit time consuming. Could take, maybe like a few days, a few hours. Just depends, how often you're playing GTA Online. But it is something that can just, give you a quick boost when it comes to, leveling up. Currently in GTA Online, we actually have 12 different types of collectibles. I don't recommend going after all of them. Some are just not worth it, or they just don't give enough money. So I'd recommend going after the playing cards, the action figures, the signal jammers, the movie props, and the LS tags, which were added recently, which are daily collectible, but they do actually pay pretty well. Now, after leveling up as well as getting some stuff from the collectibles, now it's time to really get into GTA Online and see a bit more about what it's about. So the Drug Wars update was added like about a few years ago. I think this one is a great way to start out because you actually don't need any money to invest into the business, and it's really just straight into the missions, and you can actually get paid for them. Now, these missions can be done solo or, with friends, so it's really up to you. I would probably recommend doing these with friends, but regardless, they're not that hard though. So basically it just has you going through a whole storyline of the first dose as well as the last dose, and it gives you over $1 million for completing it, and it's really not that difficult to complete. So you just have to head over to the art that's going to be in your map in Sandy Shores, and you just have to complete all these missions. And once you're finished with that, you can actually get into another business which is part of this update, which is the Asset Lab. So you're going to own this business known as the Briquet 6x6. Is going to be located at the Freak Shop, and in order to upgrade the equipment, you do have to do 10 of the Fooligan jobs. You can do this by calling Dax on the phone. There's a little bit of a cooldown. There was some workarounds, but I think most of them have been patched by now. But regardless, it's something that you can get into a little bit later. You don't have to focus on getting into the Asset Lab now, but just know it's a great business. It's pretty passive, and it's just something that's kind of just going to be in the background most of the time while you focus on other things. Now, in addition to completing the last dose missions, you do also get a free supercar, which is pretty cool, and that is something that can actually be useful when it comes to going around the map, pretty quick, especially since you're new, low level. You're not going to have a lot of, fast cars as well as ways of getting around quickly. So that is something that would help. But something I would recommend investing into if you don't already have it is the Armored Kuruma. You could wait till it's on sale, or you could just buy it. It's not that expensive. It's like around $500,000. This vehicle is definitely one of the best ones to help out when you're first starting because it does protect you from any bullets. So it's extremely helpful in a lot of missions, especially since like when you're low level, you don't have that much health that's on you, so you actually die pretty quickly. So this is something that I would recommend looking into for sure. But at this point, you should probably have around like $1 million, closer to $2 million. It just depends if you invested into other things. As a GTA Online player, you most likely have bought, you know, some weapons, some clothes, which I'll probably refrain from buying from. But it is something that's, you know, people will probably look into. An apartment also would be a great investment at this point, you know, when you're first starting out, because you can get into like, you know, GTA Online heists, as well as also the fact that you can store cars there, which is great. I think the best one for sure would be Del Perro Heist. This one is probably one of the more cheaper ones, as well as the fact that, you know, it's a high-end apartment, which again lets you start heist. I think at this point in GTA Online, it is kind of optional, but if you do want to have a little bit more fun, especially with friends, then an apartment is something I do recommend investing into. And it's really not that much. 200,000 may seem like a lot, but in GTA Online, it really isn't. And a quick way also to make a lot of money would be to do the Cluckenbell Farm Raid. This was added like earlier this year. This is something that, again, you don't also have to invest into, which is kind of those missions that you just straight up start once you, get into GTA Online. So this is going to be located on the map at the police station in Del Perro. And from here, you can just complete these handful of missions, which should probably take less than an hour, maybe like hour 30 minutes. And you're getting paid $500,000 every single time. So if you do want to make some easy money, if you're not, trying to get into some of the other stuff, then I would recommend going for that. It does, take time, and there is a little bit of a cooldown too. But it is something that you can definitely look into when it comes to, making money if you want to buy the Karuma, like I mentioned earlier, or if you want to invest into an apartment, or just get some things for your character. Because even though this guide is to focus on making money, you still want to enjoy playing GTA Online and not just making it like a straight grind the whole time. If you want to invest in other things like clothing, cars, whatever, then definitely look into that. But the main goal for sure is to get to at least $2.2 million. And as you guys may know, that is going to be the price that you need when it comes to getting the Kosaka. So this will get you into the Cayo Perico heist, which is, the best way to make money in GTA Online quickly. You get paid over $1 million every single time that you do it. Now there's a cooldown, but of course, regardless though, it's still one of the best ways. And in addition, if you still need to make a little bit more money, whatever, triple money or double money the week that you're watching this, most of the time there is some contact mission or adversary mode that has it. And even though it may not pay the best, it's still going to be paying a lot more better than previously. So that's something I would look into. So once you have the 2.2 million, head over to Warsaw Cash and Carry and purchase the Kosaka with no upgrades. And you can eventually get the upgrades in the future, but when you're first starting out, I would recommend just spending the least amount of money. Even if you have more than enough to, get upgrades as well, I would probably recommend just staying with that there. So I do have a full separate guide on the Cayo Perico heist. I will leave a link in the description to check that out. But overall, it's really something that I think a lot of people can get into, and I really break it down a lot, especially in that video. So again, I do recommend at this point, if you want to make a lot of money as a beginner, then that is definitely the way to go. But a quick breakdown: if you're consistently grinding this heist, you're getting paid about $1 million around every few hours. There is going to be a 2-hour and 24-minute cooldown if you're doing it by yourself, but it is shorter if you're doing it with friends. So it just really depends on how you're doing it, and also like what you get as your main target, and then also how consistent you are. But regardless, I think for the average person, if you are doing it by yourself, which I think a lot of people in 2024 are doing when it comes to the heist, I think the most that you're going to be getting throughout the day is maybe like 2 to 3 million. Again, it just really depends on your secondary targets and your main targets. Now, obviously, we're not going to end the guide off with just Cayo Perico, and that's how you make the most amount of money. GTA Online is way more than that, and there's a lot more other businesses as well as properties to invest to that I recommend going after. So once you make enough money from the Cayo Perico heist, or have a decent amount of money, I'd also recommend looking into the agency. So that's a business that is, with its own storyline as well as own separate missions. This one is pretty cool because we have the Dr. Dre storyline. I also have a guide on that. If you guys want to check it out, link in the description. This one gives you $1 million flat every single time you complete it, with the additional money that you get for, your first time, and also throughout the setups. It does take a little bit more longer compared to Cayo Perico, but it is another great way to get into. And besides the main, objective of the agency, which is the fact, the Dr. Dre contract, you also have these smaller things, which are going to be the payphone hits, which is something that you can do in free mode and making additional money. This is really great when you're on cooldowns for any of the heists or anything that you're doing in GTA Online that you have a cooldown for. You also have the security contracts, which is pretty good. Also, just looking around the agency, there's other things to check out for sure. So again, these are the type of things that I recommend looking into. And when you get a business, you really don't have to buy every single upgrade that you see. All or mostly businesses are mainly focused on Maze Bank Foreclosure's website, but you don't have to buy all the upgrades that you see on there. You can purchase them at a later date whenever you feel like, but I just recommend at least having the business to start, and then eventually the money that you make from that business is what you can invest back into it until eventually you're just, making more and more. And then after that, of course, besides the agency, there's other businesses to look into. Now, the list I recommend going into when it comes to the businesses in order would probably be to invest into the MC businesses after that, because when it comes to MC businesses, even though you might not do it as much, you kind of need them when it comes to some of the other ones. So MC businesses are, good to look into. So you have to purchase a Clubhouse, which really isn't that expensive. It's about $200,000. That also is on Maze Bank foreclosures. And from there, the Clubhouse actually has an additional part to that, which is going to be the fact that you have to buy the drug businesses, which is going to be like coke as well as weed, all that. So that's something that you have to look into. I also have a guide on the MC businesses. Links will be in the description. Of course, a lot of these things obviously do pertain to specific businesses, and the best way to know about them would be to see a video on that. And obviously it would just be a lot to really put into one, so that's why I have other videos and guides that I recommend looking into. So again, links will be all in the description. So MC businesses are a great way to make money in G Online. They do require a lot of money though, since you do have to actually purchase the business and also upgrade them to get decently paid. But if you just do some of the sell missions, especially recently since Rockstar actually increased the timer for these sell missions, you will be able to do this solo. And eventually it is a long grind, but that's just kind of how G Online is. So you just kind of have to, again, like I said previously, invest time and money into these businesses, and you just kind of get it back within the time that you grind. It could probably take maybe a week, less than a week, to honestly get some of the money back. So after you get into the MC businesses, the nightclub is another great way to make money. This is probably the best one to make passively, because all you need to do is just actually own these businesses and you're making money by itself. And you can start your nightclub probably weekly, and you're getting about over $1 million every single time. So that's the business I do recommend looking into for sure. And then there's also the bunker, which is kind of similar to the MC businesses. This one doesn't really have a bunch of separate little businesses, but it's more just like once you buy the bunker, that you definitely have to invest into it more to upgrade the equipment as well as other stuff, where you can make a good amount of money. But especially when it's double money or triple money, which isn't common, but as long as there's some bonus on bunker sales, it's actually a great and easy way to make money. And when it comes to all these locations, honestly, there's a lot of different places you could choose. You could choose, either out in Sandy Shores, or you can choose in the city. I would recommend, honestly, for some of the businesses, some should be in the city, like the agency, but the only business that I would probably recommend putting out in Sandy Shores would probably end up being the bunker, since you kind of have to. But I'll probably choose the one that's as close as it can be to the city, such as the farmhouse bunker, the one on the side of the highway. And then also the MC businesses, I'd recommend just kind of getting the ones that are all close to each other, and just keeping it out in Sandy Shores. It's more cheaper sometimes too, so just go for that. But besides that, I think almost every other business you should probably get in the city, so just keep that in mind. So anyways, besides the bunker though, there is other things to invest to, which would be the facility. That one's pretty good as well. It focuses on the Doomsday Heist, which is honestly a good way to make money, but this is not a business that I would probably recommend looking into first. And then we also have a few other stuff, such as the hangar. That's another one I would probably recommend getting a little bit last. The auto shop is probably something I'd recommend investing into. This one you can make money from the contracts, which actually do pay pretty well. And then you also have the customer deliveries too, so that's something that I'd probably look into, and it's actually very inexpensive too. The CEO business is probably top 5 as well when it comes to making money from that. The business is going to be obviously the CEO office, but it kind of breaks down into 2 separate businesses, which is going to be the crates and also the vehicle warehouse. This is also another one as well. I would probably recommend focusing on the crates. They do pay a lot more. It does take time to definitely collect all the crates, but it's it's pretty simple. We just go around doing missions, and then you can actually just make money back from it. So it's a great business to definitely get into, but it's not one of the first ones I would, because you do need a lot of money to invest into that one. There's also the arcade, which will get you into the Diamond Casino Heist. This one is good as well. This is more, I feel as something that you could do if you don't want to focus on doing maybe Kyle, but it does pay well. But when you just compare it to the other stuff that we have in GTA Online, it's just going to pay more if you just do the other ones instead. But this is a pretty good business to own. The main thing, of course, again, is really going to be from the heist itself. Rockstar also recently added the Chop Shop. That was another great business. You can actually keep some of your cars as well sometimes too, which is good, especially as a beginner, because you're getting a bunch of cars in a way for free. And then also you do get paid kind of good when it comes to the contract, so that's a great business for sure. And then lastly, of course, we have the Arena War. That one I would probably just stay away from, especially if you're a beginner. That's the last business to get, probably for everybody, because it's just you don't really make that much money from it, and also it's more of just a car based DLC, and you have to spend a lot into it. So on the screen is the order I probably recommend going into when it comes to getting the businesses. Obviously everybody has different choices and what they're into, but this is the one I would probably recommend going for when it comes to like what's going to be most beneficial for somebody that's just starting GTA Online. Also, I think most people know at this point, when it comes to some of the missions, if they're not in a separate lobby, which some of them are, some of them aren't, but if they're in a free mode lobby, always make sure to do it in an invite only session. This is something I think a lot of people know at this point, especially because GTA Online has been out for years. Everybody knows that people grease public sessions as well as attacks people. So now that Rockstar has really made pretty much everything in invite only sessions, you should be good when it comes to every part of every business to do that, you know, in an invite only session. If you're doing it in a friends, then, you know, do it in a friends session, you know, all that. All right, so now let's get to some of the weapons to definitely have in GTA Online. Now, there's a variety of so many weapons. Some of them you get for free. Some of them you have to do certain things to do. There's a lot of things, but the ones that I'll probably focus on the most, obviously, would be probably like the heavy sniper, as well as at least one shotgun, like the assault shotgun. That's pretty good. Pump shotgun too. And then also like for ARs, having the carbine rifle or the special carbine. For pistols, having the AP pistol, machine pistol. Now, some of these you do have to have a certain level for. It's going to show you in the ammunition what you need, but those are like the kind of basic ones that I think everybody should have when it comes to pretty much every mission in the game. Is what you're going to need to actually take out most of the enemies or even players that attack you. Obviously, this is kind of more of a personal thing. When it comes to GTA Online, you're going to eventually just buy every single weapon that you see, which eventually I think that's fine. But I think when you're first starting out, these are the ones that you should focus on, at least a sniper, an AR, automatic shotgun, and automatic pistol. A micro SMG is pretty good as well. And also the combat MG or any type of like, you know, weapon like that would actually be pretty useful too. And then for settings, when it comes to graphical wise for PC, if you're computer can handle having like high graphics, then I'll probably recommend going for that. But I think the main thing for sure is to put like textures at max, and then the rest can maybe like be on high or like medium. If you're lagging or if you have really low FPS, then obviously take it off, but you don't have to have GTA 5 in the best graphics at all. As long as it's just not glitching out, you should be fine. And then for the consoles, the next gen ones, we have like 3 different ones, which is like Fidelity, Performance, and then Performance RT. I'd recommend Performance RT because it has, you know, 60 FPS as well as phrase tracing. Fidelity has the best graphics, but you're going to be playing in 30 FPS, which I would highly recommend not at all. It's going to really push you to a disadvantage, especially as a beginner. And then for some other settings would probably be like the reticle. You can change that, like, you know, if you don't like just having the one dot, you can make it to like where it's like a whole circle around it. That could be something that's useful for some people. On console, if you want to use aim assist or auto aim, that's something I would probably recommend putting on as well, which I think it's automatically on though for most people. And then something else would probably also be like turning down the brightness, which not only makes your game looks a little bit more better, but it can actually help out a lot when it comes to certain situations with players or even NPCs. So that's something else I'd also recommend changing. Now, I will also leave some links in the description to some additional guides that I feel like could be helpful for people just starting, so definitely link into that. But as a full guide on GTA Online and which things I recommend investing into when you get started with this game, honestly, it's a really interesting and complex game to get into for sure, and it's something that you really have to just really lock into and grind if you want to make the most amount of money. But regardless though, I think throughout the whole time you should be having fun. And really, if you're consistently grinding, you should probably get to a good amount of money within like the first few weeks. So hopefully you guys did find this helpful, or at least enjoy this video. And if you did, subscribe and put on post notifications. Don't forget to drop a like, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.